In the late 90s and early 2000s, across the United States, state hospitals were closed, and all of the patients were moved into the community into group homes. Here is their story. Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to Psychology Eats. So, what's eating you? If this is your first time visiting the channel, you family now. See what I'm saying? Freudian slip, but you family now. I hope this video finds you in great mental health. So come on in, get yourself a comfortable seat, get a snack, and let's talk. Today's video, you read the title. Uh-huh. You read the title and you saw the thumbnail. Today I'm going to be talking about and doing some story time, doing a story time on my experience working in mental health, psychology, psychiatry, and all of the things. And so I'm going to say a lot of people know, this is not for the weak. Working in this field and working with people with mental illnesses in whatever capacity that you work in, you will experience many different things. You're going to experience many different things. So, I'm going to share with you a couple of stories where I felt endangered. I felt like things were definitely going to take a turn for the worse. And I'm going to share some stories of some other things that happened to coworkers that I know that happened, while I was working in these particular positions. So, for the story time, the names have been changed, and some of the details, slight details, kind of have been changed. So, it's cool for me to tell these stories because this happened over 20 years ago. And so, although obviously I follow HIPAA guidelines, names change, some of the circumstances change a little bit, but for the most part, these are experiences that happen to me or someone close to me within the field. And so that's what I want you to sit back and let's talk about it. And this video is going to be great for anybody who is considering going into mental health or psychology, psychiatry, because I think you always got to be aware. Number one, be aware of your surroundings and just be cautious. Always be cautious. And so, okay, so let's talk about the first story. We're going to call him John. And so I was supervising a group home, and the group home had five chronic mentally ill adults in the group home, all male, in this particular group home, all male. And so I got a phone call from one of, I got a page because back then we didn't have cell phones. So I got a page on my pager to call the group home. So I called the group home, and they were independent, so they were there most of the time by themselves. And so anyway, I got this call, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll be over there. We're gonna call the other person Sam. Sam called me and was like, come to the house. John is throwing stuff around the house. He's destroying the apartment. So I'm like, okay, well, go in your room. Don't say anything to him, whatever. If it get real out of hand, call the police, call the cops. Now, mind you, this is back in the 90s. And so it was difficult to find group homes in certain neighborhoods. And so we definitely didn't want cops and stuff coming to the group home. This was in a very nice townhouse community. And we went through hell to get this group home approved to be in this community. So I was like, Sam, don't, Just go in your room. I'm coming. So when I get to the group home, I go in the okay. So I go in the group because I got keys to get in, and I can hear John like talking, screaming out loud. Now John, I had a great relationship with John. Great relationship with John. I felt like, I knew him well enough to know he wouldn't hurt anybody. But at the same time, I know now, I'm thinking like, I never heard him act out like this. So what is going on? So then when I'm listening at the door, right? Before I open it, I'm listening to see what is going on. Like, and I can hear John in there, come on, like going off. So I'm like, oh my God. So I open the door like, John, right? And it's dark, it's nighttime. So it's dark in the apartment. And I'm like, John. He's like, what? That's not even John's voice. That's not even his voice, y'all. I'm like, what is going on? And he just looked at me like in this weird, not him, like, he says my name and he's like, get out of here. Get out of here. And I'm like, what? I'm just stunned. I'm just looking at him like, then I notice he got a knife. John had a knife. He had it down, so I couldn't really see it because I'm looking at him, trying to give him eye contact to like look at me. You know who I am. Like, you trust me. I trust you. Like, what is this? So he brings the knife up and he gets like close to me and he's like, get out of here. Now it's his voice. His voice is like, get out of here. And then he had like this necklace on his neck, like made out of rope. He takes it and takes the knife and pops the necklace. So I back out. I'm just like, okay. I back out. I back out the apartment. And now, I'm on the sidewalk. So then, remember, we don't have cell phones back then, right? So now I'm trying to get to a phone, like a payphone, something, so I can call for help. Because now I'm scared about the other residents that's in there. This man got a knife here. So I get to crisis. I call crisis. I call the police. Crisis go in. They have to handcuff him. They have to take him out. He wasn't resistant. He comes out. He's hospitalized. Come to find out, he had stopped taking his medication I'm going to say for weeks. Once we got him in the hospital, once he was in the hospital and he was back on meds, he had clarity about something, like what was going on. He admitted that he had stopped taking his meds because they were independent of their meds. I would just come and fill up their med cases. And so they were supposed to be independent of their meds. And so he declined and decompensated because he was not taking his meds. And as a result of that, that is when he started hallucinating and he was delusional and thought that everyone was his enemy. And really, my thought was always like, he could have, right? He could have stabbed me in that moment. He really could have. He could have stabbed me in that moment. And he did not. And I think that had a lot to do with my relationship with him at the time. I had a good relationship with him. I've always been respectful to my clients, always been respectful. And as a result of that, he did get better. He got really better. We started monitoring his medication much, much closer. Then it went from me going over to that group home once or twice a week to I went every day to monitor him and watch him take his meds. And just, through education and educating him and supporting him, because he was a young guy. He had became schizophrenic. The onset of his schizophrenia started when he was like 19 years old. And he was about 21 at that time. And so he was a young guy. And so, yeah, I worked with him for many more years after that. He ended up getting married to a young lady he had met in one of the programs. And just, went on to be, having his own family, having his ups and downs with mental illness, obviously. But I tell that story about him is because with mental illness, sometimes you have those, decompensations happen after people stop taking their medication. And so it just happens that way. But that is my story. That is the story time. If you like that story time, I got more, honey. I was in this field for 30 years. He is not the first time that I had a situation. But you got to be able to think quick on your feet. Next time, maybe I'll tell you about the time that I was kidnapped. Okay, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next video.